live.
Are you ready, Jared?
It can be.
Please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I just saw Dave run out the door.
Meeting of the Wahoo City Council, Tuesday, April 7th, 7 o'clock p.m. Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Stuart Ritchie.
Here.
Shane Sweet.
Here.
Ryan Diaz.
Here.
Chris Brackle.
Here.
Patrick Nangle.
Here.
Carl Wolfer.
Okay, proclamation declaring Friday, April 26th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Wahoo. So we'll put that in the record. Anybody in the audience have something to discuss other than things on the agenda? Probably not on the agenda, so, okay. Department head meetings. Kevin.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few items to point out in the normal monthly reports. Civic Center, first quarter of 2024, feel very good about our memberships. Continue to hold steady, right around 2,200 members, nearly 700 memberships, so that's a good number for us. March particularly was a good month for informal drop-in, had 5,300, 5,200 through the facility, averaging around 238 a day, so very busy yet. Some of that had to do with some colder weather during the month, but excuse me, as we've turned into April here, we certainly have seen a change in terms of attendance with nicer weather. Folks want to get outside, and so we see a little bit less folks coming through the doors here over the last week or so. But otherwise, everything's good. A few things just to highlight in the reports. If you look at the rec report, from Bob Schmidt, I want to point out our spring activities. If you go to Hackberry on Saturday, this coming Saturday, we'll have soccer, 437 kids playing from 8 a.m. till about 4 o'clock. We have 4 fields set up. That's on the new part of Hack, so that's on the south, we call it South Hack, for lack of a better term, but south part of Hackberry. So that's obviously our second spring that we've been able to utilize those multi-purpose fields as part of that construction over 2 years ago now, and so it's performing very well is my point. It's doing exactly what we wanted it to do, which was take pressure off of the main north side of the complex where we used to put soccer fields on the baseball outfields. We have dedicated space. It'll take a break in the summer, and then we'll have flag football there in the fall like we've done. So it's worked out very, very well, especially now as we get softball and baseball ramped up. We don't have those conflicts, and so it's very comfortable also having 2 additional fields, and things will start ramping up. Our first formal activities of the spring season down there will be some baseball starting next week. We've actually had 1 date of reserve high school level baseball down there already, but we'll start ramping things up here in about another week or so. But spring activities, very good. If you look at that again, the rec report with our spring volleyball, that wrapped up a couple weeks ago. Nearly 600 kids in those 2 programs combined. We do host our annual Wahoo Easter egg hunt. We are the sponsor of that. Had a nice turnout again this year, well over 300. We added an adult hunt last year. That's been well received. So we do receive good community support in the way of donations and such. And so a very successful event there that was run by Riley Buckmaster, our special events coordinator. We're gearing up for summer activities. Summer swim lesson registration coming up. We have our summer camp program nearly full coming up. We'll have baseball, softball registrations going on now, and we deal with the little guys, which is the T-ball coach pitch kids, and those numbers remain really, really strong as well. Moving on to just some things over on the senior services is if you look at that report, again, our meal program highly utilized, 528 meals during the month of March. That's about average, and we start to see that ramp up a little bit during, again, March was a little cooler, so people utilizing those services. And a lot of those are delivered, and we rely on volunteers for a lot of that delivery part of it. So a very good program that remains viable and ever increasing. The other thing I want to note on the bottom in the narrative is, and I think I've mentioned this before in my reports, scholarships. So it's scholarship season, right, for seniors. The Senior Center Association awards 6 scholarships each year, 3 to Wahoo High School, 3 to Bishop Newman graduating seniors. Those have been awarded $1,000 each, so $6,000 worth of scholarships. That is money that is generated through the programs that the Senior Center Association has, primarily the thrift store. Okay, so another nice benefit of that operation and giving back to our community with the thrift store there and that operation. So we receive great support in the way of donations, hugely supported, all volunteer driven again. But again, this is another way that those revenues are used to draw back and bring things back to our community. So just want to point that out.
6 scholarships is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it started, Chris, with, I want to say, 1 each school.
Yeah, I remember. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and then they've gradually increased it because of the fact they can afford to do so, and as revenues have been steady for them, and so on. So yeah, it's a great program, and those kids are very, very grateful for that, as those seniors are, as we all have had some of those kids come through. From the park side, as we enter into April, even going back to March, April, May, without question, the 3 busiest months for our park staff of the year. And that's just simply because we're getting everything open back up again. And we're getting Crawford already, as you can tell by Patrick's hat. We have a baseball game going on down there, or did at least. I'm assuming it's over probably.
I missed the end of it, but we wanted
Yeah.
to walk out.
So Crawford's been busy with high school baseball. We have Hackberry kicking off again, as we said. Here in another month, we'll start thinking about the aquatic center. And so for our parks guys, things are starting to bust open here. And so for the next 60 days, our busiest time of the year. And then we kind of turn and shift into more of a maintenance mode where everything's opened. And so now we're concerned with primarily our normal everyday maintenance of mowing and trimming and cleaning and opening up shelters and all the other things that come with that. But certainly those guys will be really, really, really busy over the next 60 days. A couple projects I brought to this group that are underway. Those scope of services that you guys approved for 2 projects looking at the Civic Center renovation and addition. We had our kickoff meeting with JEO, Melissa and I, as well as Corey Broderson and another architect in their office about 2 weeks ago to kick off that process and get things started. And so that's underway. They anticipate, Melissa, you can help me out here, but my memory was something towards the mid to end part of the summer-ish to have a lot of that wrapped up. And so obviously that will come back to you for your review and for your input and for your evaluation of that. So that's underway. And then also next week, or actually in 2 weeks, I'm meeting with JEO's group again, Brent Caesar, as well as Isaac Krakemeyer for the trail project, that scope of services that we approved to go and look at starting a trail, continuing it south. We will get that process underway in about 2 weeks with a kickoff meeting. That's going to take a little longer, probably through the summer to the early part of the fall is what they're anticipating. So those 2 projects underway. Otherwise, yeah, just a lot going on, or will be going on here for the Civic Center and for the Parks and Rec Department. Questions for me?
Are you finding the help you need?
It's a great question, Stu, and later in the agenda on the consent, you're going to see why we're bringing this to you. I think it's one of the biggest challenges we're going to face moving forward for my department specifically, and probably for the rest of the city. We have probably right now, not probably, but I know we've got at least 3 what's classified as regular part-time positions open with the city. A couple of those with senior services. One is the thrift store manager job. One is an assistant manager at the senior center. And then we have a special events and rentals coordinator position that just opened up. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to find folks to even come in and apply using all of the available marketing outlets that we have, a lot of it that being social media, word of mouth, email blasts, and those sort of things. Obviously, our facility, we bring people in, we try to post things so they're aware of it. But also from a seasonal employment standpoint, I feel good about what we're doing right now and heading into our summer with the pool in terms of lifeguard staff. We will have a good summer, I feel like. But I think the real challenge, and again, I think we can talk about this when the next item comes up, is from a financial management standpoint, and in the finance committee, one of the things I'll be talking to you about this coming summer is looking at those operations, and what is our philosophy as it relates to cost recovery? Because our wages, we're trying to keep pace with these state mandated minimum wage hikes every year annually for the last 2 and still 2 more to come. And so we don't have to abide by that. And a lot of folks don't understand that. The city does not have to offer a minimum wage based on the state's minimum, but we do have to offer the federal, which is still at $9, right? However, what are the chances of us finding someone still at $9 an hour? 0. Okay, so we have to make sure we're in that market to try to attract and recruit and retain some of these young people to continue to help us out. And so that's going to be a real challenge, I think, for us as a city, is that financial fiscal part of it, and how do we manage that, and also balance that with the fees and charges, right, at these facilities, whether it's a Civic Center membership, whether it's a season pass at the Aquatic Center. How are we balancing that, and what's the philosophy of this group to make sure that we're kind of in a good position there? So yes, to your question, I feel good about where we're doing right now, heading into this summer, but a lot of challenges, I think, still out there moving forward. Yeah. Anything else?
Infield looks good in there, Crawford. You guys did a lot of work on it.
Thank you. No, our parks guys, yeah.
The Sam Crawford hop.
Yeah, no, we did a lot of work, but also the other part is it's as green as it would look probably in July, because we do have something called a winter turf blanket that we started using 2 years ago. So actually, if you drive by Crawford in the winter, you'll see a blanket, literally a turf blanket over it, that really keeps it fresh and helps it in the spring to green up. So it's been a huge turf management tool that we've been using. But our parks guys have done a great job. Got some early fertilizer applications out there, and so our parks are, especially our sports facilities, are looking really, really good right now, especially after last weekend's rain. So they do a great job.
Mary Daly is on the agenda later, but she raised her hand, so she might have something relating to your
Yeah,
report.
when you brought up the older adults, the senior center, is Aging Partners out of Lincoln doing anything like Tai Chi classes, bone density studies, anything to?
We've had some things that we've partnered with them for, Mary, in the past, but right now actively no. For example, we do have our own in-house programming. So IHE is, for example, one of those that's very popular, but that's our own staff that are programming that. So Aging Partners isn't, right now at least, one of those groups. Now, we do partner with them, I believe, in the summer for the farmers market coupons. I think that's the facilitator of that program through the state. So that might be the most direct way we interact with them. But right now, nothing actively in terms of programs. So.
Because legally, by state bound, they are required to provide services in Saunders County, even though Saunders County does not have a contract with it.
Right.
So I was just wondering if they were
Well,
doing
I mean,
their share or not.
Well, I guess that's to be determined. But yeah, at this point, it's pretty minimal, to be honest with you. So,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Sorry this didn't make it in your packet. I was on vacation all of last week, so things have been a little chaotic returning. I finally made it through all of my email this morning. So, just a rundown of the meetings that I attended. The only thing that really I want to call your attention to is on March 20th, I attended a pre-construction meeting at District 1 office for the roundabout project. I think that if you've driven by the old by Family Fair and seen the sign that has been parked there, I think that is in conjunction with a roundabout project. You have been seeing the electrical contractor work up there. I think there will probably be some of the main contractor hired by NDOT that will be coming in and starting to do some of the preliminary work, the phase 1 and phase 2, which is basically widening the driving surface so that when they start on phase 3, which is when you will not be able to turn south through that intersection, that will be blocked off. There'll be enough room to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic. So based on that information presented, I believe that will be starting sometime the middle to end of May on the actual south part of the roundabout construction. So that sign, we talked through a few things on traffic control and signage, etc. And we would really like to have people not go out on 12th Street out to John Deere and realize that they can't get on and turn around and come back. So hopefully we do some advance signing. The other thing is that on March 28th, Joe and I met with JEO staff on our downtown stormwater drainage study and reviewed some of those findings. Nothing really serious, like and alarming, kind of things that we already knew, that maybe there's areas where the capacity could be increased, but it really will be, when we dive into the final report, it'll be, I think, an evaluation of, is the cost worth making the changes, or is that something that just needs to be incorporated as we're already doing projects? Like, if it's disturbed by the water main, we should probably do something. But that they expect that they'll have that by the end of the month. Wilmer Ridge, we're continuing to work on project closeout and special assessments. On North Highlands Phase 2, all of the sanitary sewer work has been completed. The water line installation's underway, and the storm sewer work will begin shortly. And again, once those pieces are in the ground, there'll be a little bit of a hold on the project. Collins will come back later in the summer to do the paving on that project. Downtown TIF, the downtown Blight and Substandard study, the final report is posted on the city's website for public review. We have public hearing scheduled for May 2nd and May 14th for the Planning Commission and the City Council. And again, that is not changing much. It was just an update of our downtown Blight and Substandard study. So the boundaries of that area did not change. I'm sure you have seen the property located directly south across the Highway 77 from the airport's been listed for sale. That's the Crummell property. It's 207 acres with a listing price, I believe, of $59,500 per acre. And internally, and I'm sorry, I don't remember if we had this conversation at the last council meeting or not, but internally we've had conversations about the importance of supporting the fact that is in our future land use as industrial property. There may be things that come to the table for consideration that are not industrial, but that's the only stretch of industrial property adjacent to a rail line that is not fully allocated. So I think that is something that we need to make sure that we're considering very closely. But yeah,
I was going to say, how is that going to be affected by the airport, FAA regulations and things of that nature?
So there are airport zoning regulations that are already in place, and it does affect, if you go basically straight out from the concrete runway and then up at an angle, there will be some height limitations, but that doesn't mean a parking lot couldn't go in that area. Sure. Or lower storage. It goes up.
Single story.
Right.
Well,
right.
Level.
So the PUD, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about that. I will be sending out the draft ordinances in a separate email to you in advance of the whole council packet on April 23rd. I know you've heard Kevin Anderson was here answering some questions. I did a little bit of review. If you attended any of the Planning Commission meetings, we talked about that 2 or 3 of the meetings. And so at the April 23rd meeting, I would like to have all of the questions answered finally and hopefully move forward with action if that's your desire to incorporate those regulations into our zoning regulations. So I guess my point is, if you have questions, please let me know. You're probably not the only one that has that question, and I'll do my best to get an answer or at least present that to you at the April 23rd meeting. North Highlands Phase 1, I just thought you would want to know. I just did a review for the developer. 30 of the 60 lots have been sold. They will have another 1/10 payment on the special assessments due the first part of May, so that's why we're having this conversation. But construction permits have been issued on 20 of those lots through the end of March. 15 of them were in 23, 5 in 24. I know Travis has issued one in Wilmer Ridge. I heard a conversation today that there's 2 more that are being, the purchase agreements are being finalized today. So I think we're going to continue to see these kinds of numbers going forward. Just a couple of things on the staff, just so that you're aware. We are in-house. Our EMS department provides CPR certification. They're certified in doing the CPR training. So we have 4 different sessions. So there's about 50 slots for employees to do their CPR certification, which includes the AED, the defibrillator training. All of our defibrillators that are located in our buildings as well as in our police vehicles. We've got some that are going on our line crew vehicles. They're all the same brand and tie directly into what our EMS department has in their squads. So if those pads are put on someone from one of the city devices, they can just be plugged straight into they don't have to replace the pads from what I understand. So that's a good thing. Joe, I think maybe he said to you at the last meeting that he was studying hard for doing his street superintendent license exam. He did that this last week, and now the waiting game, I think he has to wait until the end of the month before he finds out.
So we took the test this week then? or-
He did take the test, yes.
Good. Yeah.
Right. Just keep in mind, the last time, the last round of this testing, there was 30 people that took it and 6 passed, and that's pretty typical. So it's about a 25% pass rate. We have coming up next week some kickoff meetings for the downtown water main project, and then that's going to be followed up with our the public engagement piece of that project that we have. We're going to be using JEO for some of those services. So I think that's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Move to the consent agenda. Several items on there, most of them are routine. Number 4, if you've looked at it, the seasonal pay scale changes that Kevin talked about briefly.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions about that, but just what we're proposing, and this again affects my department more as much as anyone's, is just simply, again, reacting to this annual state minimum wage increase. We feel like we need to adjust our seasonal scales once again to try to provide a reasonable opportunity for our seasonal employees to make a wage that they could make at a lot of other places that are our competitors. And so basically what's in the red would be eliminated, those 4 grades. The 6 in the yellow would be added on the top end, and then you can see the strikeouts or strike-throughs, and so everything would be reclassified, if you will, A through O, creating our new seasonal scale at this point in time. I do, again, anticipate this would be something that perhaps a year from now or earlier even that you will see me back here or us back here again looking at some continuing adjustments of this scale as needed. So the other thing that will accompany this, if approved, would be we would then change, positions, or all the city positions, whether they're seasonal, full-time, and anything in between, are assigned a grade, right? A pay grade. And so then there would be some changes to the pay grades based upon the new lettering of this scale to the positions we currently have. So this seasonal scale for my department would affect employees such as our Civic Center building supervisors, which is the folks that are in the facility anytime we're open, supervising at the front desk and doing that sort of work. Obviously our summer pool staff, it includes concession workers, it includes our parks seasonal employees, which there's about 4 of those. So again, and also recreation individuals, recreation, what we call rec leaders and rec assistants. And so, a lot of this is impactful to my department. So, but this is what we're proposing to try to, again, provide. Now, you may ask, well, why do you need a step or a pay grade less than $12 an hour? There is one position that we have that we feel because of it, and that's our concessions operation, that, a starting wage of $10-12 because of the real challenge there, and the margins are so small with concessions that we're talking about 14 and 15-year-old individuals where we're hiring them at 10, 12 an hour, and we feel comfortable we can find those kids at that age, because they're very limited in what they can do, right? 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds. And so we feel that that would be the pay grade, or is the pay grade currently for that position. And so we're going to keep that as really our top one, or our bottom one, I should say, our baseline position, or pay grade. So questions for me about that?
How many people are in this meeting? 30 people, 60 people?
Seasonally depends, Stu. So our aquatic center employs on an annual basis 24. Like I said, we'll have probably 4 to 5 on the park side. From the recreation side, over an annual basis, you could be talking 30 to 40 when you talk about sports officials and people like that. Yeah, it's impactful. You're talking everything from, again, 14-year-olds all the way up through adults that are impacted. They're on this scale in some sort of a seasonal capacity. So, thank you.
Okay, the last item is the approval of the claims on the consent agenda. Is there any comments or questions?
Not any big claims in there, I do look at them, but motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Preaching,
Yes.
Rappel,
Yes.
Ideas,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Yes.
Public hearing and associated action, there's none. Actions not requiring a public hearing. Discussion regarding concerns about the loss of green space for the community of Wahoo in Phase 2 of the Camel Hall Kennedy Campus project as requested by Mary Daly. She's here, and I imagine she will speak to that.
Okay, you guys have your printouts. I'm going to tell you a quick story because I know you're busy and everybody wants to get out of here. Today I had my granddaughter, her name is Avery, and we're on our way to Lincoln, and she says, Grandma, do you know what's going over in that space? I says, yeah, that's going to be a big Google place. Yeah, she said. She says, but they're taking away all of our farmland. And we're going to have a lot of people on this planet with no place to grow food. What are we going to do about it? Why aren't they utilizing other spaces? Good point, Avery. Before I came here tonight, there were a dad and his 2 kids swinging. There were 4, I guess high schoolers, I'm going to guess, playing basketball on this space. I keep looking at this design, which you guys have. I go out there and I walk things off. Granted, I am not a surveyor. I am not even a good measurer, but I try to figure out the layout. I talked with Travis. Travis says this plan, Phase 2, is not a done deal. So I'm pleading with you again. Green space in Wahoo is needed. It's a free space. You don't have to pay anything to go out there and play. And that basketball court is used still constantly, whether it be basketball or pickleball. No fence around it. They chase the balls and it doesn't seem to be a big deal. But they use that space. The way this is outlined, I'm going to point it out again. I know I did last time I was here, but I will continue to do that. This is not the same size as what's currently out there. There is no way that the way it currently is, and that was the agreed upon size, that size of that court was not supposed to change, fits in this space. There's no place for the swings. There's no place for them to have their little picnics that they have there. Like Joe Swartz was out there with her little one today too, having a picnic. Don't take away our green space. We need this as a community. We have a bunch of houses going up, but no additional green space. So please, I don't know what I need to do or how I need to do it differently, or if this is even an issue, but we need to keep our green space. And trust me, I'm not doing it because I don't want people living across the street from me. That could be the furthest thing. I'm a very personal person. I like people. I like to go out and visit with people. Please, 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 really, really think about our green space in Wahoo. Because that little corner thing, I don't know what street that is. Nobody plays in that park that I've seen. And I go around and I drive and I check out places. I don't take pictures anymore because I know that was weird. But there isn't the people that are there at the other parks when I have a lot of people playing ball across the street from me that I witness all the time. This little court down here, there's no public parking. You have to walk through all these apartments to get to this court. We can do better. Wahoo's a good community. Wahoo can do better. We can keep green space for our community. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do, but here I am again.
Well, I will make a couple comments. One of them, we have an agreement on South Hall, Boys Dorm, Camel Hall, that is to be completed by December 31st of 24.
That's this year.
That is a deadline for that to be completed. I don't know for sure when we will start working on the rest of it. What happens if he's not done with that? And he wants an extension, just for my information, if nothing else.
Well, there's some hard deadlines set in the redevelopment agreement, and for those to be changed, it would have to be an amendment that would come before the city council.
Well, I'm not saying anything about the dorm.
No, but this-
Right, but that proposal is included in the redevelopment agreement. It is draft. If it changes much from that outline that you're seeing here,
Yeah.
if it certainly will get less, but that is what we already agreed to within this development, and it's.
Okay, well, how come I'm getting kind of different statements from different people? Because they said this is definitely approved. This is, go ahead, we're getting in there, we're tearing everything out, and it's sitting there, which is fine, I don't care. This part, yes, they can build, but the actual how it's going to be built, my understanding from what I was told, has not been approved.
So the phase 2 agreement was approved, but it's contingent on phase 1. So I think Melissa's earlier point, Gary's question is, what if they breach the agreement on phase 1 because they don't complete it in time? Then I think at that point, all cards are on the table for us to discuss, does the city council grant an extension? Does the city council seek to modify either the phase 1 development portion of the agreement or the phase 2, whether it be the geographic boundaries of that space that you're talking about?
Yeah.
All of that would happen, but I think it would be predicated, that discussion would be predicated on them breaching phase 1. Because the agreement is designed that if they do what they're supposed to, the city has to adhere to its development agreement on phase 2, which would, I would argue, restrict the city's ability to take space away from the developer that the development agreement granted to them, which is basically the box there. If we said we want that box to be bigger, I don't know that legally we'd be able to do that unless they breach their part of the agreement.
Well,
So
when
it's-
Billy Hancock was also bidding on this, to my recollection, you guys did say that the court has to remain the same size. Because with his drawing, he had cut it, this initial drawing, they had cut it in half. And then you guys said, no, it's got to stay the same size. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think my recollection was the notion was talking about the court space, not the overall used space.
Well, yeah, but the court space had to stay the same size.
Yeah.
This is not the same size as it currently is. Because if you walk it off, and like I said, I am not a surveyor, I don't pretend to even measure, but if you walk off how big that court is. And then go like from Yager's end of their line, which I'm assuming what it is. And then you look, well, how in the heck are they going to build apartments right there and have it available? It really doesn't fit. And I did talk to Mike, and I probably shouldn't say this. I did talk to Mike, and Mike said, yeah, this is smaller than the court. So if we approve this, then we're not going with our original plan of keeping the court size. Right?
Yeah, the only thing I can't recall, two things I can't verify is the surveyed space of the current structure and this structure. And then secondly, whether the intent was that the court itself has to be the same size, or whether or not the reserved box needs to be at least the same size.
The same size as what?
That's the court plus some green space.
But the court is not the same size, and that's, I mean, if it's got to be the same size as what? Because there's nothing else to measure off of but the court.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say, this is conceptual. And to Travis's point where he told you it's not a done deal, he has not, the developer has not submitted official plans for these townhomes or the way that this lot is gonna be laid out, or,
That's okay.
right, or these garage studios. So, that being said, that information has yet to be submitted. This is conceptual, so.
Okay, so if they present a revised plan, what I'm hearing you say is, if that isn't the final plan, you don't have to accept it. When the final plan comes, you can accept a final plan that shows courtside and parking for the community available.
But all of those,
Are those angled parking
all of
spots
those things were
public?
specifically
Yeah, and
addressed
here's-
in detail in the redevelopment.
Here's the one major problem, I think, with what I'm hearing you say. If, as an example, what the city would ultimately want would be to take, and instead of having this red boundary to extend out to here. If I'm the developer,
Yeah.
I'm saying the city would be breaching its development agreement because the city is granting this space with the intent that he'll have this much usable space to build in.
Okay, then he's breaching his contract by not making the court the same
And
size.
I think what Melissa's saying is that as to this particular, what happens inside this box, I think what happens inside that box is still yet to be determined, right? That in terms of the finite details of.
So we've
exactly
agreed to
how
give
wide
away
it
our
is.
green space. We've
I think
agreed
we've
to do
already
that.
done yes.
Wow, that's really, really sad.
Because I think that the reason, the bargain, so to speak, was the city was willing to give away some of its green space to see a residential development structure put in place for housing purposes, right? And so taking away that from the developer would necessarily mean he would lose 1, 2, 3 townhouses if that were to happen. And
If he did lose 3 townhouses, but he's also developing Wahoo Super. And you guys are, Melissa, she said, we're looking at chromos, and I get that, because Wahoo's going to expand. I mean, thinking of industrial-wise. Wahoo is going to expand. And as Wahoo expands, Kevin's got the programs, but we don't have the space. Kevin's got some programs, but that costs money. Not everybody has money. Like Kevin was saying with, who works for $9 an hour? Who can afford to work for $9 an hour? Nobody can afford to work for $9 an hour. So having space available for Wahoo people that can't afford the Civic Center, and that's no reflection. I mean, you gotta have the money to generate the programs to keep everything going. I know that. But
We need as much housing as we can get, but you're also saying we need space for recreation.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So, not to replace this, you said we have these housing subdivisions and there's no green space, and that is not true, because in both North Highlands as well as Wilmer Ridge, there was written into and throughout the development process, there are parks included.
And I understood that. But what I'm saying, what you've taken away, not in the new development, but in the old development, where there's still a lot of kids in my neighborhood. A lot of kids, a lot of young families. They don't live in the new houses. That was an area for the people in that area.
Was that always a city park, or was that private property that people used to use?
That was a city park. That's, I mean, this space
Yeah,
here.
that's currently there, I just didn't know if that was part of that original property, or if the city actually owned that.
City's owned it for quite a while.
Yeah.
I
And
think
for
since
decades.
like
and decades.
1977.
So I didn't know, I was just asking, I'm not from Wahoo originally.
Yeah.
And what about eminent domain? Can't you take some of that back?
You could, you'd have to compensate the property owner.
Well, is that a bad idea?
It would be costly when you're talking about towns. Now, I think originally, the big question, or the big what if, is, well, what if the developer doesn't abide by the terms, doesn't get the phase one completed? Then there's a bargaining chip, right? Then there's a chip the city has to say, well, if you want an extension, what are you going to give us in exchange for the extension? Is it a bigger court? Is it a change in boundaries? I think that discussion certainly could happen at that point. But I think it would all be predicated on the developer having to come to the city and wanting something.
Well, doesn't it bother anybody but me that the parking, the access to the court, you have to walk through the townhomes yards?
Sidewalk on the south side.
But where are you going to park?
I think
Okay.
there was, at the time, there was some conversation of
Again,
Those aren't private
parking
parking.
along.
Off-street parking.
I get that, but that's still in front of the townhomes. And when I talked to Mike Sullivan, he said that the reason that they switched things, because that wasn't his original plan, they switched things is because they did not want, he was told that they did not want people parking on 12th Street because it's a steep hill. So the original plan that he gave to you guys was not this plan. So what plan did you agree to? The original one or this one? When they took over?
This exhibit was included in the redevelopment proposal that was approved by the council. This, because if you scroll down, Christina, it says Exhibit B. It's straight from the plan itself.
So what happened to the original one that was proposed? The first one that I saw?
It's through a process of negotiation through.
More housing along the east side and the court was.
Even less than the green space.
The court stayed in the front. With the
Yeah, but it was
original
even-
plan,
but
the
it's
court,
even smaller than what's there.
Yeah, I think this was actually
double the
expanded
size.
rec space.
This
from
was
the
double the
original.
rec space.
The original plan had one.
well, I guess
basketball.
tonight and every night when I pray, I'm gonna hope that they don't make the deadline. So you guys have some bargaining chips, because I think we've done Wahoo a disservice, and especially the people in my area a disservice, because that is used so much.
Well, we'll probably have to wait and see how it plays out.
And I'll probably be back one or more, 2 times too. And can I address something that Kevin said? And I don't know if you guys even know this. As far as aging partners go, do you know they no longer have an office in Wahoo or Saunders County? And that they only come PRN whenever necessary? So our older adults that need help with Medicaid apps, with economic assistance apps, our disabled people who need help with disability reports aren't getting the help that they need. And I can honestly say that Jerry knows that I work with people pro bono all the time at my house, which isn't always comfortable, nor do I like that. But I think maybe what Kevin's saying about the senior services, and I hold those near and dear to my heart. Trying to find somebody within the senior center or hire somebody that, okay, this day a week, if you need help with the senior application, to help you with your Medicaid review, to help you with your economic assistance, to help the disability people. The people down at Westview were calling me nonstop when there was so many issues. And there was, nothing that I could do about it. And I, call City Hall, call Lincoln, call whoever you need to call. But there was definitely a lot of issues going on down at Westview for a long time. And if you are looking to hire somebody in a position for that, or, if you need to expand your senior center, maybe that's an area you could expand it in and offer something 1 or 2 days a week or twice a month. You know what I mean? Just something to help older adults, because you're not going to get it from the state of Nebraska unless you say, okay, you have to provide this because it's in the guidelines.
I don't see us providing that service because aging partners is required to. We probably need to change our focus and make sure they are present.
And what they're going to tell you is Becky Romshak from David City comes and provides services as people call in. So you have to know the Lincoln number. You have to know to call Lincoln in order for Becky Romshak from David City to come to Wahoo or Valparaiso isn't your concern, Wahoo, for people to get that service.
Well, we need
Yeah,
to do
sorry,
something to get them
I
here.
was.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, approval of ordinance 2455, renewal of the conditional use permit for Liberty House. This is an annual, and I don't know if we've had any different issues.
It's been quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah,
And it's just for another 12 months,
Yes.
so. A motion to introduce the ordinance,
I'll second.
and motion to waive the 3 readings.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is on the floor to waive the 3 readings. Roll call.
Krejci?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Sweet?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
Okay. The ordinance itself. Motion.
Yes.
Yeah, already.
Or did, did we vote on the 3 readings or vote on the motion?
We just voted on to waive the 3 readings.
So
Now we can vote to
vote
approve.
on the ordinance, yes. Roll call.
Krejci?
Yes.
Ideas?
Yes.
Rappel?
Yes.
Sweet?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes.
We're done with that?
Yep.
Okay. Mayor's comments. I did attend the planning commission meeting last Thursday evening. Asked for some time on the agenda, and that has to do with our proceeding with our zoning. We've got the information, not sure when we are going to be able to look at that from the council level, or does that go to planning first and then here?
Are you talking about the C2, C3 zoning, is that what you're talking about? Or
Yeah, the study that we just had completed.
The annexation study.
Yeah, annexation, not zoning, annexation study.
I think that would be, it could be initiated by the planning commission, I guess, but if there are areas, I believe that the city council feels there should be action taken on, you could recommend to the planning commission for them to review the specific areas, for them to come forward with a recommendation on annexation.
So
So that
that,
you're kind of telling them the direction you wanna go, but they're involved, in doing that analysis and making sure, they're on board going forward, bringing it to the council.
that brings me to the point that, at our NRD board retreat, and I'm a member of that, Joe was legal counsel for it. At our board retreat, we went through all the details of the proposed new office building. that part of it official. Did have a couple, 3 people there last night with some questions. There was really no questions from the board, but it was discussed again from some that maybe hadn't been to all the meetings. The discussion during our process of evaluating infrastructure for that building, talking with Ryan Hurst and with Eric Gottschalk and the board, it would be to both the NRD's advantage and the city's advantage as far as utilities to annex the area where the office building is going to be built. The Wahoo sign, and there's a Quonset, and there's an empty lot north of that on the west side. For that to be the new office location. Putting in city utilities for 3-phase, quite a savings to the NRD for that. It's a way for the city to move forward with possible annexation further north and across the road west. How far we want to go or need to go, that would be up to our studies and planning and zoning and city council. But zoning up to that, going across the 4-lane into that area, I'd like for that request to be made to the planning commission for them to look at.
Do you want a motion to that degree?
Can't, it's not on.
Just a, okay,
No,
just a suggestion.
yeah. So if there's no objection, we'll visit with Travis and get it on the agenda in May. That building is supposed to be done at the end of next year. So, now, there's a lot of questions out there about the process we went through and the costs and all that. I think Greater Wahoo is going to invite Eric to the next meeting and go through all of that, the same as he did for the board and the rest of the public, to explain that, why the time is right. If you have some questions, one of us can answer it. Otherwise, that's the only comments I have, so.
I have one comment that on April 16th, at the PLC, at the public school, from 6:30 to 7:30, there's gonna be a forum, District 23 candidate forum. I know some of you get the Greater Wahoo information, but the Chamber of Commerce has also posted it on their Facebook page, their social media.
Comments from the council? Have a success, If there's none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor, stand. Put the chairs back.
Who put up that diagram of the court? I just was going to mention again.
There is footages on that.
Yeah, I just was trying to, because I was just going on GIS and seeing what the existing one was.
What do you say here? Park property line dimensions are approximate and to be verified on the site.
So it's 80 by
It's
60.
Turn it off.
Approximately,
Yeah,
with the bump out, yeah.
so it's 70 by 80.
Because the current court space is 60 by 116 according to GIS.